ABC General Hospital spoilers, Joss, Vaughn, and the Five Poppies twist a past love returns. A mission turns personal. Welcome back to ABC General Hospital Spoilers channel. Today we will learn about the issue that's about to set the canvas ablaze. At the Five Poppies resort in Dalmatia, a covert mission that puts Jocelyn Jacks under the brightest spotlight yet, pairs her with her new handler Vaughn in a dangerous charade, stirs shockwaves with Britt Westburn's presence, and unexpectedly pulls Cameron Webber back into her orbit at the worst possible time. Joss and Vaughn are on a mission at the Five Poppies resort, a mission Brennan has assigned them, and the stakes are higher by the hour as they are forced to pose as newlyweds to infiltrate, observe, and report anything unusual at the luxury resort. From the moment they enter the hotel lobby, Five Poppies is no longer a peaceful retreat, but a maze of surveillance, code names, and flickering signals between duty and true feelings, especially when rumors spread that Britt, who was thought to be dead after saving Joss from the hook, is here, being forced by a mysterious force. Mission at Five Poppies, love in disguise, heart in turmoil. Brennan has shifted her focus away from Professor Henry Hank Dalton, sending Joss and Vaughn to Five Poppies, where they'll live as a newlywed couple for 2 weeks, using every moment of fake intimacy to move, probe, and search for the hidden connections that control the resort. The sweeter the cover, the closer the stakes. One misplaced glance, one off-key word, and they could be exposed among those who treat this place as a base, not a tourist attraction. The tension of the mission lies not in the tracking devices or the unmarked doors, but in the interactions between Joss and Vaughn, a professional pairing with enough emotional tension to make their dialogue all too real to outsiders. Vaughn is cautious, calm, and methodical, and perhaps that's why he's the perfect foil for Joss to break through. Joss, with all the courage of youth and the wounds of the past, moves forward without turning back. If there is a gap, she is ready to pounce. Britt Westburn, the breath of the one thought to be dead. If there is anything that can shatter Joss's mask right at Five Poppies, it is Britt appearing at the right place, at the right time, looking straight at her with the eyes of the person who saved her life. What leaks show is that Britt is being controlled, threatened, and angry enough to resist, even challenge those who are keeping her confined to the resort grounds. Her survival, if confirmed, is not only an emotional bombshell for Joss, but also a key link that can unravel the entire network that is manipulating Five Poppies. But the biggest surprise is not Britt, it is another face, an old wound, Cameron Webber. The old man in the storm. Cameron appears, memories resurface. It seems that the person Joss met that made her extremely confused was not Britt first, but Cameron, the first love who once made her heart burn and then painfully extinguished when she betrayed him for Dex. That day, Joss chose a different path, and Cam packed up her sadness to leave, continued to study and grow up far from home, leaving a long distance between them with words that were never said. Meeting at Five Poppies, between the darkness of the mission and the alchemical light of the chandeliers, the two faced each other not as to tourists, but as to past's awakening at the same time. Joss remembers that she and Cameron had a strong love, a love true enough to make every day meaningful. But then she betrayed him, and Cam chose to overcome the pain by leaving, burying himself in his studies, finding a rhythm of life without Joss in every corner. That was the story that shaped them. Joss was strong enough to be willing to cut ties to move on. Cam was deep enough to accept silence to preserve the remaining good person, the truth under the disguise. Because Joss and Vaughn were pretending to be a couple in this resort, Cameron could soon discover the truth, not because she was bad at acting, but because Cam knew Joss well enough to recognize every blink under pressure. But Cameron was smart. He knew Joss had a job, had a reason, and maybe in the most important moment, Cam would choose not to expose Joss, not because of the remnants of old love, but because of the standards he had maintained all this time. In a place where secrets have a price, Cam keeps Joss's secrets the way he kept hers when he was in love, this time not out of possession, but out of respect. A necessary conversation, affection, sincerity, and the turn. Joss and Cameron could have an emotional and heartfelt conversation, not the conversation of two impulsive young people, but the conversation of two people who have gone through many seasons of loss, understanding the price of their choices. They see clearly in each other's eyes the questions they never had the chance to answer. Why that day was like that, why each chose their own path, why now they meet in the most dangerous place. In the maelstrom of intrigue at Five Poppies, they could share a rare moment of silence, looking back at their old love, not to turn back, but to put it in its rightful place in their hearts. Will they reunite? There's no quick answer to that question. Things are moving too fast. The stakes are high. And Joss's cover doesn't allow her to rush into a relationship when all she can guarantee is risk. But there's no denying the fact that when fate brings two people together, not even a top-secret mission can dim the light they see for each other. Jason's footsteps and Brennan's shadow. On the other end of the chessboard, Anna has warned Jason, and all roads seem to be leading to Croatia, where Jason may be forced to choose between keeping his promise to leave Britt alone and rushing into the Five Poppies to prevent something bad from happening to Britt, to Joss, or to both. As the pieces of the puzzle come together, Brennan's man who assigned Joss and Vaughn to the mission stands at the crossroads, where personal motives, power, and truth collide, putting them all on the line in a gamble that could cost people he shouldn't have considered pawns. If Britt is truly threatened and ready to rebel, if Joss is on the verge of a no-go zone, and if Jason is about to show up to pull things back from the brink, Five Poppies will no longer be a resort, it will be a battlefield, where every loyalty will be tested by action. The line between duty and heart is thin. Joss's heart is a maze. She must maintain her cover, trust in Vaughn's skills, keep herself safe amid the traps that lie ahead, and suddenly find herself face to face with Cameron, a man who knows her better than most, who can understand her thoughts in half a sentence. With Vaughn, Joss had professional trust. With Cameron, Joss had memories, emotional debts, and a part of herself she had kept hidden to live on. Some nights soon, amid the Dalmatian surf and the hazy jazz of the Great Hall, Joss might quietly leave the table, and Cameron would stand in the windy hallway and tell her the things he had never said, that he had not come here to embarrass her, that he understood that what she had done was for a greater good, that if she needed someone to stand by without question, he could be that person. Even if it was no longer a confession, it was a mature acknowledgement that love, once real, would always be the foundation of kindness between two people. The danger was approaching. Meanwhile, the danger signals mount. Britt is threatened. Joss and Vaughn's presence is on the brink of exposure, and the shadowy forces at Five Poppies are moving in, closing in on anyone who isn't theirs. A mission like this doesn't tolerate mistakes. One misplaced touch, one instinctive protective reflex for an ex, can send the message that the new bride and groom aren't who they say they are, which is why Cameron's refusal to expose Joss, even when she realizes it all, is invaluable. It keeps her safe, it buys her time, and, who knows, it might even open up a way out when things start to fall apart. If they reunite and if they don't, if Joss and Cameron are ever to get back together, it will only happen when they face their current obligations. Joss must complete her mission, preserve her network, and forgive herself for her past choices. Cameron must accept that she is no longer the girl she once was, and that he is different, more mature, more composed, more willing to put the safety of those he cares about before his own comfort. Reuniting while still in turmoil only hurts more. Only when the storm has passed will people know which shore is theirs. And if they don't reunite, perhaps they will still have the most beautiful thing adults can give each other: unconditional respect and an unspoken promise that when one needs the other will be there, whether it's under the shade of a tree in a Port Charles backyard, or in the lobby of a strange hotel on the Croatian coast. All the tendons are tightening for one day. The coming days at Five Poppies will be a series of moments, where every character must make their hardest choices. Will Britt explode or stay quiet and wait for her chance? Will Joss keep her cover until the end or trade it for someone she once loved? Will Vaughn stand firm as a true support or become Joss's emotional turning point? Will Cameron retreat into the shadows or step up to shoulder the risk for her once again? And somewhere along the line, Jason is coming, someone who often appears at the exact moment a heart needs the most concrete action to protect it. Five Poppies is no longer a place to rest. It is a mirror that reveals what has been hidden for too long: loyalty, old love, new responsibility, and the thin line between safety and collapse. As the storm gathers on the resort's glass dome, only one thing is certain: whether Joss and Cameron ever get back together, this encounter will shape everything that follows. Next, we will learn about the tense developments surrounding Curtis Ashford and Dr. Portia Robinson's fragile sense of security amid ongoing blackmail threats. In the bustling corridors of Port Charles, Curtis Ashford and his wife, Dr. Portia Robinson, are finally allowing themselves a momentary breath of calm after what feels like an eternity of high-stakes drama. Curtis, ever the optimistic family man with a background in private investigation that sharpens his instincts, is convinced that he and Drew Kane have brokered a genuine ceasefire. This belief stems from a recent tense negotiation where Curtis confronted Drew about his manipulative tactics, leading to what appeared to be a mutual agreement to back off. For Portia, a dedicated physician whose career at General Hospital has been a cornerstone of her identity, this supposed truce means she no longer has to live in constant fear of Drew's blackmail, exposing her darkest professional secret. The couple had desperately hoped Drew would surrender the incriminating evidence he holds over Portia documents that could shatter her reputation and career, but Drew, with his calculated business acumen honed from years in corporate battles, insisted on retaining it just in case. Little do they know, Drew's ambitions extend far beyond simple vendettas. He's weaving a larger web of influence in Port Charles, using leverage like this to solidify his position in both political and personal arenas. This false sense of peace allows Curtis to focus on rebuilding his life post his own health scares, perhaps even exploring new ventures like expanding his club, the Savoy, into a community hub for local artists and musicians, while Portia contemplates returning to her research on rare medical conditions that could benefit patients worldwide. However, beneath this veneer of resolution, Drew Kane harbors no intention of granting Curtis or Portia a permanent reprieve. As the newly elected congressman with eyes on even higher political prizes, Drew sees the blackmail material as a valuable asset in his arsenal, one he might deploy if alliances shift or if he needs to manipulate outcomes in his favor. His reluctance to destroy the evidence isn't born from malice alone, but from a strategic mindset, shaped by his time in prison and subsequent rise in the Quartermain family empire. Drew's history of resilience, including surviving identity crises and family betrayals, has made him a master of holding grudges and playing the long game. In recent episodes, we've seen him maneuvering behind the scenes, perhaps even consulting with shadowy advisors from his past military days, to ensure his secrets remain airtight. This ongoing threat looms like a storm cloud over Portia, who must now navigate her daily rounds at the hospital with the added weight of potential exposure, all while maintaining her poised exterior as a pillar of the medical community. Delving deeper into the heart of this scandal, Dr. Portia Robinson's fateful decision to tamper with Heather Weber's medical test results remains the explosive core of the conflict. Portia, driven by a fierce maternal instinct that has defined her character since her early days in Port Charles, acted out of desperation to protect her daughter, Trina Robinson, from Heather's unhinged wrath. Heather, the notorious serial killer dubbed the Hook for her gruesome methods involving a poisoned hook, had terrorized the town with a string of murders that left residents in perpetual fear. Portia's alteration came at a pivotal moment, when medical experts uncovered that Heather's violent spree might have been fueled by severe mercury poisoning from a faulty hip implant, a condition that could potentially mitigate her sentences and lead to her release. In a high-pressure lab setting, surrounded by beeping monitors and sterile equipment, Portia subtly manipulated the blood samples to erase any evidence of normalized mercury levels, ensuring Heather's continued incarceration. This act, while ethically dubious, was Portia's way of safeguarding not just Trinaho had narrowly escaped Heather's attacks during a chilling confrontation at an art gallery, but the entire community, from a remorseless predator. Inventing a new layer to this storyline, perhaps Portia confided in a trusted colleague about her fears, only to second-guess herself later, adding internal turmoil that manifests in sleepless nights and strained interactions with patients, highlighting the human cost of such moral compromises. The chain of events leading to Drew's involvement is a tangled web of betrayals and shifting alliances that underscores the cutthroat underbelly of Port Charles. It all began when Brad Cooper, the scheming lab technician with a history of his own scandals including child custody battles and mob entanglements, stumbled upon Portia's alterations during a routine audit of hospital records. Seizing the opportunity, Brad initially blackmailed Portia himself, demanding favors that ranged from covering up minor lab discrepancies to providing insider information on hospital politics. For a tense period, Portia lived under this shadow, her stress evident in subtle ways like canceling family dinners or avoiding eye contact with colleagues. Eventually, Brad relented, promising to destroy the evidence in a dramatic shredding scene that viewers might recall for its suspenseful music cues. But in a twist of loyalty or survival, Brad handed the proof over to the formidable Selena Wu, the poker-faced crime boss whose influence extends from underground gambling rings to legitimate businesses like her herbal tea empire. Selena, always one step ahead with her network of informants, saw value in the information and promptly passed it to Drew, who had stepped into Brad's role as her reluctant ally after a series of favors, exchanged in dimly lit backrooms. This handover wasn't just transactional. It deepened Drew's entanglement with Selena's operations, perhaps involving him in overseeing illicit shipments disguised as Quartermain Enterprises cargo, adding a layer of danger to his already precarious life. Most recently, the blackmail escalated when Drew pressured Portia to falsify Michael Corinthus's blood work, aiming to fabricate evidence of opioid addiction that could discredit Michael in a brewing corporate feud over ELQ shares. Michael, the steadfast CEO with a family legacy of power struggles, had no idea his routine checkup could be weaponized against him. Portia, standing firm in her ethical principles despite the personal risk, outright refused, her voice steady but her hands trembling as she envisioned the fallout, contemplating resignation from General Hospital, a move that would devastate her. Given her passion for healing inspired by her own battles with family secrets, she prepared a heartfelt letter to the board, outlining vague personal reasons while inwardly grappling with guilt. Fortunately, the apparent truce between Drew and Curtis intervened, seemingly halting the demands and allowing Portia to reconsider her future. This development could open doors for Portia to mentor younger doctors, perhaps starting a program on medical ethics that ironically draws from her experiences, or even collaborating on a community health initiative with Curtis to strengthen their bond. Enter Dr. Isaiah Gannon, the compassionate newcomer whose steady presence has been a lifeline for Portia amid her turmoil. Over the past several months, Isaiah, with his background in trauma surgery from war-torn regions that honed his empathy, has offered quiet support without prying into the specifics of her distress. Their interactions, often in the hospital's quiet break room over coffee, have built a foundation of trust, with Isaiah sharing stories of his own past losses to encourage her. Now armed with the knowledge that Drew was blackmailing Portia, perhaps overheard in a heated whisper, or deduced from subtle clues, Isaiah is poised to take action. Viewers can anticipate a confrontation where Isaiah, leveraging his position as Drew's subordinate in a recent hospital project, challenges his boss directly, his calm demeanor masking a fierce protective streak. He might urge Portia to disclose the full extent of Drew's leverage, offering to brainstorm solutions like anonymous legal consultations, or even rallying hospital allies for support. Yet, upon learning the truth about Portia's tampering groveled in a vulnerable confession scene under the soft glow of evening lights, Isaiah's reaction could shift dramatically. His own code of medical integrity, forged through life-saving decisions in high-stakes environments, might lead to disappointment or a moral dilemma, forcing him to weigh loyalty against professional duty. Time will reveal whether Isaiah becomes an ally in exposing the truth or distances himself, perhaps confiding in a neutral party like a hospital chaplain for guidance. Next, we will learn about the thrilling comeback of Dr. Liesl Obrecht and the swirling mysteries tied to her daughter's fate. In the ever-dramatic world of Port Charles, the buzz in the General Hospital fandom reached fever pitch when news broke that Kelly Thibault would be reprising her role, sparking widespread hopes that this could pave the way for the triumphant return of Liesl Obrecht, brought to life with unmatched intensity by the talented Kathleen Gotti. Obrecht, the sharp-tongued and brilliantly scheming doctor, has been noticeably missing from the Port Charles scene since 2023. Her departure coinciding with the heartbreaking demise of her beloved daughter, Britt Westburn. That tragic event unfolded in a chilling confrontation where Britt was viciously attacked by the infamous hook killer, later unmasked as the deranged Heather Weber, whose poisoned hook left a trail of terror across the town. Fans have long speculated about potential plot twists reviving key characters, and Thibault's return has ignited theories that Obrecht might soon re-emerge with fresh vendettas or alliances, inventing a new element to heighten the intrigue. Perhaps Obrecht has been quietly operating from the shadows in a remote European clinic, conducting clandestine research on experimental treatments that could tie into upcoming storylines involving mysterious illnesses plaguing Port Charles residents, adding layers of suspense to her anticipated re-entry. Dr. Liesl Obrecht has always been a force of nature, defying conventions and bending rules to suit her often nefarious agendas. When Kathleen Gotti first graced the screen as this formidable character in 2012, Obrecht was deeply entangled in the web of the notorious criminal mastermind Caesar Faison, assisting him in orchestrating a series of audacious schemes that kept viewers on the edge of their seats. One of her most diabolical exploits involved aiding Faison in the abduction and imprisonment of Duke Lavery and Robin Scorpio in a secluded Swiss facility. complete with high-tech security measures and psychological manipulations that tested the captive's endurance. To further shield Faison's secrets, Obrecht went to extreme lengths, inducing a year-long coma in Robin's father, the resilient spy Robert Scorpio, using a carefully calibrated cocktail of sedatives administered in a sterile operating room, under the guise of routine medical care. This act of ruthless devotion showcased Obrecht's unparalleled cunning and loyalty, traits that have defined her as one of soap opera's most memorable anti-heroes. Expanding on this with a creative twist, imagine Obrecht reflecting on these past deeds in a private journal, discovered by a nosy Port Charles newcomer, revealing untold details like her internal conflicts during the hostage crisis, where she briefly considered defecting, but ultimately chose loyalty, out of a twisted sense of family honor inherited from her own turbulent upbringing, in a war-torn European village. By 2013, Obrecht's arrival in Port Charles marked a seismic shift, unraveling a tapestry of family secrets and escalating her influence within the community. In a jaw-dropping revelation that stunned audiences, she was exposed as the biological mother of Britt Westburn, forging an unbreakable bond between the two women that led to some of the show's most outrageous escapades. Together, they masterminded a convoluted baby-swapping plot, where Obrecht facilitated Britt's self-impregnation using an embryo belonging to Dante Falconeri and Lulu Spencer. A scheme hatched in a dimly lit fertility clinic filled with the hum of incubators and the scent of antiseptic. This audacious move culminated in the birth of little Rocco, whose early life became a battleground for custody wars that tore through the Falconeri and Spencer families, leaving lasting scars and unlikely alliances. As Obrecht's list of misdeeds lengthened, so did her intricate connections to the town's elite, weaving her deeper into the fabric of Port Charles society. To add a fresh inventive detail, perhaps during this period, Obrecht secretly funded an underground network of informants to monitor her rivals, including hidden cameras in key locations like the Metro Court Hotel, which could resurface in future episodes to expose long-buried scandals and heighten the drama surrounding her return. The revelations didn't stop there. In 2014, the storyline took another explosive turn when it was disclosed that Obrecht was the sister of the calculating Madeline Reeves, positioning her as the aunt to the fiery Nina Reeves and expanding her familial reach into one of Port Charles' most prominent dynasties. But the shocks kept coming. Obrecht was also unveiled as the true mother of Nathan West, the dedicated detective whom Madeline had raised as her own son in a web of deception, rooted in jealousy and inheritance disputes. Nathan's heroic death in the line of duty in 2018, gunned down while protecting his loved ones during a tense standoff with a criminal syndicate, left Obrecht devastated yet determined to honor his memory. In the aftermath, she formed a surprisingly tender bond with Nathan's widow, the resourceful Maxie Jones, evolving into a doting grandmother to their son James, often seen spoiling him with imported European toys and sharing stories of Nathan's bravery during cozy family gatherings at the Jones household. Through Nina's daughter Willow Tate, Obrecht's extended family tree branches out to include the adorable grandchildren Wiley and Amelia, creating opportunities for heartfelt moments amid the chaos. Inventing an additional element, Obrecht might have established a secret trust fund for these grandchildren, drawn from her ill-gotten gains, which could become a plot point if contested in a dramatic courtroom battle, underscoring her complex blend of villainy and genuine affection. Obrecht's most recent stint in Port Charles was triggered by an unexpected email from young Rocco, who reached out with innocent questions about his complicated parentage, pulling her back into the fray just in time for the ill-fated wedding of Willow to Drew Kane, an event that spectacularly unraveled amid betrayals and revelations. Her presence added a layer of sharp wit and unexpected wisdom to the proceedings, as she navigated the emotional minefield with her signature blend of sarcasm and insight. It's been a delight to witness Kathleen Gotti reclaim her role, infusing Obrecht with a noticeable softening around the edges since her previous appearances, perhaps influenced by years of reflection and loss. Yet, questions linger. Is this mellowed demeanor merely a facade, or has grief truly transformed her? Speculation abounds that Obrecht might have been privy to the truth about Britt's survival all along, but Gotti's nuanced performance suggests she's as clueless as the rest, her eyes conveying raw vulnerability in quiet moments. To enrich this with a new inventive angle, envision Obrecht attending underground support groups for grieving parents in disguise, where she anonymously shares her pain, only to encounter a familiar face from her past that hints at larger conspiracies involving Britt's supposed death. The emotional depth of Obrick's return shines through in her poignant interactions, particularly when reminiscing about her lost daughter with Britt's former flame, the stoic Jason Morgan, and the seasoned agent Anna Devane. Jason, fueled by his unshakable conviction that Britt survived after spotting her in the romantic streets of Paris and hearing her unmistakable voice during a cryptic phone call, subtly tested Obrick's knowledge without tipping his hand. Their conversation balanced heartfelt grief with fond memories, like recalling Britt's quirky sense of humor during hospital shifts, all set against the backdrop of a serene park bench overlooking the harbor. Similarly, Obrick's historically stormy relationship with Anna has thawed into something profound, as the two formidable women bonded over their regrets as mothers, discussing the missteps that shaped their daughters' lives in a candid exchange. At Anna's cozy apartment, surrounded by flickering candlelight and old photographs, these scenes highlight Gotti's masterful acting, turning sorrow into anticipation for the joy ahead when Britt's revival is confirmed, adding a creative flourish. Perhaps Jason discovers a hidden locket from Britt containing a coded message that only Obrick could decipher, potentially drawing her into a covert operation to bring Britt home safely.